The last sliver of twilight clung to the horizon like a forgotten ribbon, painting the sky in hues of deep amethyst and rose gold, before surrendering to the encroaching navy blue. Inside the celestial nook, Elara Vance moved with the quiet grace of a shadow, her hands deftly arranging a display of moonstone pendants, their milky iridescence catching the last vestiges of natural light. The air in her shop was a comforting blend of old books, beeswax candles, and the faint sweet scent of dried lavender from the sachets tucked between rolls of antique star charts. The celestial nook was more than just a shop. It was a sanctuary. Nestled on a quiet cobblestone lane in the small coastal town of Havenwood, it was a place where dreams felt tangible, where the mysteries of the cosmos were celebrated in every carefully curated item. Elara had inherited it from her eccentric great-aunt, Lyra, a woman who believed firmly that every soul had a star, and that understanding the heavens was key to understanding oneself. Elara, with her perpetually curious eyes and a spirit that felt as expansive as the night sky itself, had taken to the legacy naturally. Tonight, as she dimmed the main lights, leaving only the soft glow of a few strategically placed lamps and the twinkle of fairy lights woven through a hanging constellation mobile, a sense of quiet contentment settled over her. The town was beginning its nightly descent into slumber, the distant murmur of the ocean a steady lullaby against the backdrop of chirping crickets. Elara loved this time of day, when the world quieted down, allowing the subtle magic of the night to unfurl. She poured herself a mug of chamomile tea, its steam curling delicately in the cool air, and settled onto a worn velvet armchair by the large bay window that overlooked the lane. From this vantage point, she could see the first pinpricks of stars beginning to emerge, shyly at first, then with increasing confidence, until the sky was a velvet canvas dusted with diamonds. She knew them all by name: Orion, Cassiopeia, the shimmering band of the Milky Way, visible here in Havenwood with breathtaking clarity. It was a rare gift in a world increasingly choked by light pollution, and Elara guarded it fiercely, advocating for dark sky preservation with the local council. Her fingers traced the rim of her mug, a faint smile playing on her lips. She often wondered if there was someone else out there looking up at the same stars, feeling the same quiet awe. It was a silly romantic notion, perhaps, for a woman who spent most of her days surrounded by inanimate objects and the occasional, equally star-struck customer. But the stars, to Elara, were never truly inanimate. They pulsed with stories, with history, with the very stardust from which everything, including herself, was made. She was just about to take a sip of her tea, when the small bell above the shop door chimed, a gentle, unexpected sound that made her jump slightly. She hadn't heard anyone approach. It was well past closing time. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the deepening indigo, was a man. He was tall, with broad shoulders that seemed to fill the space, and his dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd run a hand through it in frustration. Even in the dim light, Elara could discern a serious, almost intense expression on his face. He held a worn leather satchel clutched in one hand. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a low rumble, surprisingly gentle despite its underlying tension. "I apologize for disturbing you so late. I saw the lights and hoped, well, I hoped you might still be open." Elara slowly rose from her armchair, placing her tea on a nearby table. "We're actually closed for the evening," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "Is there something urgent I can help you with?" She wasn't usually one to turn away a customer, but there was an air about him, a quiet urgency that felt out of place in her peaceful shop. He took a step further into the room and Elara finally got a clearer look at him. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, scanned the shop, lingering on the telescopes and star charts with an almost desperate hunger. He looked tired, lines of fatigue etched around those striking eyes, but there was an undeniable intelligence, a sharpness that belied his weariness. He wore practical, unassuming clothes, a dark tweed jacket over a simple shirt, but they seemed to have seen better days, much like his expression. "Urgent? Yes, in a manner of speaking," he said, running a hand through his hair again. "My name is Reese Kincaid. I'm looking for something very specific. I was told this might be the only place in Havenwood, perhaps even in the entire region, that would have it." Elara raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "And what might that be, Mr. Kincaid?" Reese hesitated, his gaze sweeping over the intricate details of her shop again, as if trying to gauge if she was truly capable of understanding his request. "An antique lens," he finally said, his voice dropping slightly. "A specific kind. From a very old refractor telescope, possibly a Fraunhofer. It would be a large objective lens, likely in a brass cell, with a focal length of at least 5 meters. Elara blinked. It wasn't every day someone walked into the celestial nook asking for such a specialized item. Most of her customers were hobbyists, romantics, or those seeking unique gifts. A Fraunhofer lens was a rare and valuable piece of astronomical history, usually found in a museum or a serious private collection, not tucked away in a small-town shop. "A Fraunhofer?" she repeated slowly. "That's quite specific and rare. We do deal in antique telescopes in parts, but something of that caliber." She trailed off, thinking. Her great-aunt Lyra had acquired many peculiar things over the years, often trading with other collectors or salvaging from forgotten estates. Lyra had a knack for finding treasures in unexpected places, believing that every object held a story waiting to be told. "I understand," Rhys said, a hint of resignation in his tone. "It was a long shot. I've been searching for weeks, traveling up and down the coast. There's a particular observatory, decommissioned for decades, that I'm trying to, well, let's just say I'm trying to bring it back to life, and it needs its original lens." "Which observatory are you referring to?" Elara asked, her interest piqued. Havenwood was known for its dark skies, but she wasn't aware of any grand decommissioned observatories nearby. Rhys hesitated again, his eyes flicking towards the door, then back to her. "It's not exactly public knowledge," he murmured. "It's on a private estate, a few miles inland. The Blackwood Observatory. You might not have heard of it. It's been abandoned for nearly 80 years. Elara's breath hitched. The Blackwood Observatory. She had heard stories, whispered tales from her great-aunt, about a forgotten place shrouded in mystery and overgrown ivy where the stars were said to sing. Lyra had always spoken of it with a wistful longing, as if it held a secret she yearned to unlock. She had even hinted, once or twice, about a piece of its history that might have found its way into their possession. "The Blackwood Observatory," Elara breathed, a sense of wonder mixing with a dawning realization. I might know something about that." Rhys's weary face transformed. A spark ignited in his stormy eyes, a flicker of hope that was almost painful to witness. "You do?" he asked, his voice tighter now, expectant. "My great-aunt Lyra. She had an affinity for the Blackwood estate," Elara explained, her mind racing through old ledgers and dusty inventory lists from Lyra's time. "She used to say it was a place where the veil between worlds was thin. She salvaged a few items from there over the years before the estate was completely locked down, some maps, a few old star charts, and possibly, just possibly, a very special lens." Rhys took another step closer, his gaze fixed on her. Could I see it? If you have it?" Elara considered him for a moment. He certainly didn't look like a typical collector, nor a thief. He looked like a man on a mission, driven by something deep and profound. And the Blackwood Observatory, it felt connected to her own heritage, her own love for the stars. It felt right to help him. "It's not on display," she said. "It's a rather delicate and valuable piece. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's carefully stored away." She gestured towards a narrow, winding staircase that led to the living quarters above the shop. "I live upstairs. It would take a moment to retrieve." "I don't mind waiting," Rhys said immediately, his eyes still shining with that fragile hope. "I'll wait as long as it takes." Elara nodded, a small, genuine smile gracing her lips. "Very well, Mr. Kincaid. Please make yourself comfortable." She gestured to a small plush armchair nestled amongst a collection of antique celestial globes. "I'll be right back." As she ascended the creaking wooden stairs, Elara's mind was a whirlwind. Lyra had spoken of the eye of the cosmos, a lens of unparalleled clarity that had once belonged to a renowned astronomer who had lived at Blackwood. It was said he believed the lens could capture light from the very edge of the universe, revealing secrets no other instrument could. Lyra had kept it not for its monetary value, but for its story, its connection to that lost observatory. She had stored it in a custom-built wooden case, lined with velvet, in the most secure corner of her private study, now Elara's. Upstairs, the air was cooler, quieter. Elara moved through the familiar rooms, her lamp casting dancing shadows on the walls, lined with books and framed astronomical prints. She found her way to the small study, its shelves overflowing with volumes on astrophysics, ancient myths, and forgotten constellations. Behind a sliding panel, disguised as part of the bookshelf, was a hidden compartment. She pressed a specific book spine, and the panel slid open with a soft sigh. Inside, nestled on a bed of dark blue velvet, was a long cylindrical wooden case. It was heavy, crafted from a dark polished wood, with intricate brass clasps. This had to be it. Elara carefully lifted the case, cradling it in her arms, feeling the weight of history and possibility within its confines. She descended the stairs slowly, Rhys Kincaid still waiting patiently below. He looked up as she approached, his gaze immediately falling on the case. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of awe and trepidation. Elara placed the case gently on the large antique oak table that served as her main counter. "This is it," she said, her voice a little hushed. "The Blackwood lens," or what Lyra always called it anyway. With painstaking care, she unlatched the brass clasps and slowly, reverently opened the lid. Inside, nestled on the velvet, was the lens. It was magnificent. A large, perfectly ground piece of glass, thick and heavy, set within a tarnished brass cell. Even in the dim light of the shop, it seemed to gather and focus the ambient glow, refracting it into tiny, shimmering rainbows. It was flawless, a testament to the master craftsman who had created it so long ago. Rhys gasped, a sound of pure, unadulterated wonder. He reached out a hand, hovering inches above the glass, as if afraid to touch something so sacred. It's perfect," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't believe it, after all this time." He looked at Elara, his stormy eyes now alight with a profound gratitude that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "How did you come to possess it?" Elara smiled faintly. "My great-aunt Lyra was an extraordinary woman. She believed in saving beautiful things, especially if they had a story. She found it during a particularly bad storm, nearly 80 years ago. The Blackwood estate was crumbling, neglected. She saw the lens, lying exposed amidst the rubble, and knew it was a treasure. She rescued it, carefully restored its brass casing, and kept it safe, hoping one day it would find its way back to its original home." Rhys carefully, tenderly, lifted the lens from its case. He held it up to the light, turning it slowly, his gaze tracing every curve, every reflection. "This is more than just a piece of glass," he murmured, almost to himself. "This is a window to the past and to the future. With this, the Blackwood Observatory can live again." "Why the Blackwood Observatory?" Elara asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Why go to such lengths? It's been abandoned for so long." Rhys finally tore his gaze from the lens and looked at her, a serious, almost haunted expression returning to his face. "My grandfather," he began, his voice softer now, tinged with a deep, personal connection. "He was one of the last astronomers to work there, before the estate was sold off and the observatory fell into disuse. He was obsessed with a particular anomaly, a faint, recurring signal he believed came from beyond our galaxy. He spent his life trying to prove its existence, but he ran out of time, and the observatory was shut down before he could gather conclusive evidence." He paused, a shadow passing over his features. "I'm an astrophysicist. I specialize in exoplanet detection in the search for life beyond Earth, and I recently stumbled upon my grandfather's old journals, his research notes. He was onto something, Elara. Something extraordinary. The signal he detected. It's been confirmed by newer, more powerful telescopes, but they can't pinpoint its origin with enough precision. I believe the unique design of the Blackwood telescope combined with this specific lens might hold the key. It has a wider field of view." Elara listened, captivated. The idea of a lost observatory, a forgotten signal, a grandfather's legacy. It was like something out of a myth. "So you're trying to finish his work?" Rhys nodded, his jaw tightening. "More than that, I'm trying to honor his memory. He was ridiculed for his theories, dismissed as a dreamer. I want to prove him right. I want to find the source of that signal." "And you believe this lens will help you do that?" she asked, gesturing to the gleaming glass he still held. "I know it will," he said, his voice filled with a quiet conviction. This lens was specifically designed for that telescope, to gather the maximum amount of light from the furthest reaches of space. It's unique, irreplaceable. He carefully placed the lens back into its velvet-lined case. So, how much do I owe you, Elara Vance, for this invaluable piece of history? Elara shook her head gently. It's not for sale, Mr. Kincaid. Reese frowned, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. I understand it's a priceless artifact, but I'm prepared to pay a substantial sum, whatever you deem fair. No, you misunderstand, Elara clarified, meeting his gaze. My great-aunt Lyra never intended for this lens to be sold. She always said it had a destiny, a purpose it needed to fulfill. She kept it safe, but she also hoped it would one day return to its home, to the Blackwood Observatory, to complete its work. She would have wanted it to be used for exactly what you're describing. She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. However, Reese waited, a hopeful tension in his posture. However, Elara continued, I have one condition. Anything, he said immediately, without hesitation. Name it. I want to help you, Elara said, her gaze steady. I want to see the Blackwood Observatory brought back to life. I want to see the stars through that lens. My great-aunt spoke of it with such reverence. It feels like a part of my own history, too. If this lens is to fulfill its purpose, I want to be there to witness it. Reese stared at her, genuinely surprised. You want to help? At the observatory? Yes, she confirmed, a warm blush rising on her cheeks. I know a great deal about astronomical instruments, about the history of the observatory, what Lyra told me at least. And I know Havenwood, its resources, its people. Besides, she added, a mischievous glint in her eyes, you'll need someone to make sure you treat Lyra's lens with the respect it deserves. A slow smile spread across Reese's face, transforming his features, erasing the lines of weariness, and revealing a startling handsomeness. It was a genuine open smile, and it sent a surprising warmth through Elara. Elara Vance, he said, his voice laced with a mixture of amusement and relief. I think that's the best offer I've received in weeks, months even. I would be honored to have your help. He extended a hand across the counter, his grip firm and warm as their fingers clasped. Welcome to the team. As their hands separated, Elara felt a peculiar tingle, a sense of destiny unfolding. The stars outside seemed to shine even brighter, as if in approval. The Blackwood Observatory, the lost signal, the legacy of a grandfather, and a great-aunt, it was all weaving together into a tapestry far grander than she could have imagined. Her quiet, star-filled life had just taken an unexpected, exhilarating turn. Reese Kincaid, the pragmatic astrophysicist, and Elara Vance, the dreamy guardian of celestial wonders, had found a shared purpose under the sprawling, starlit sky of Havenwood. And as the night deepened, painting the world in shades of gentle slumber, Elara knew, with an undeniable certainty, that their journey had only just begun. The universe, it seemed, had a plan for them, written in stardust and whispered on the wind. The crisp morning air of Havenwood carried the scent of pine and damp earth, a gentle invitation to wakefulness. Elara stirred, sunlight dappling through the leaves outside her window, painting shifting patterns on her quilt. She stretched, a soft sigh escaping her lips, and found her thoughts drifting immediately to Rice. His intelligent eyes, the way his brow furrowed in concentration, the surprising warmth of his smile when he'd looked up at the stars beside her. Last night had been more than just a collaboration. It had been a revelation. A shared current, silent and profound, had passed between them, leaving her heart feeling lighter, more attuned to the quiet symphony of the universe. She dressed in comfortable trousers and a soft forest green sweater, her mind already buzzing with ideas for their dark sky initiative. The observatory, her sanctuary, felt different now, infused with a new purpose, a new partnership. As she made her way through the dew-kissed grounds, the distant hum of the Havenwood community, awakening, filled the air. She found Reese already in his office, a mug of steaming coffee beside a stack of celestial charts and a laptop screen glowing with complex data. He looked up as she entered, and the corner of his mouth lifted in that familiar, understated smile that sent a surprising warmth through her. "Morning, Elara," he said, his voice a low rumble that always felt oddly comforting. Slept well? Like a log, she replied, though her mind had been far from dormant. And you? Already deciphering the universe? He gestured to the screen. Just some preliminary light pollution models? The data from our initial scans last night is concerning, but not insurmountable. His pragmatism was a solid anchor, a perfect complement to her intuitive optimism. They spent the next few hours in a comfortable rhythm, mapping out a strategy. Reese, with his methodical approach, outlined the scientific arguments, the impact of artificial light on migratory birds, nocturnal wildlife, and human circadian rhythms. Elara spoke of the beauty, the heritage of Havenwood's dark skies, the sense of wonder it inspired in residents and visitors alike. They discussed public awareness campaigns, community workshops, and the possibility of grants for converting existing streetlights to dark sky-friendly fixtures. We need to identify the worst offenders first, Reese mused, tapping a pen against his chin. The brightest, most inefficient lights, commercial signs, perhaps some residential floodlights. And we need to show people that preserving the dark isn't about living in darkness, Elara added, her eyes sparkling. It's about intentional light, directed where it's needed, when it's needed. It's about balance. Their first joint task was a community outreach meeting, scheduled for the following week. They decided to present a united front, Reese providing the scientific gravitas, Elara weaving in the emotional appeal. As they planned, their conversations flowed easily, punctuated by shared laughter over a particularly egregious example of a misdirected spotlight in a neighboring town. Or a moment of quiet understanding when Elara described the pure magic of seeing the Milky Way unfold above Havenwood. Reese, she noticed, was a surprisingly good listener, his gaze steady and thoughtful as she spoke. He didn't interrupt, but rather absorbed her words, occasionally offering a concise, insightful point that showed he truly understood the core of her passion. And Elara, in turn, found herself fascinated by his explanations of light wavelengths and celestial mechanics, his enthusiasm for the intricate workings of the cosmos mirroring her own, albeit from a different angle. Over the next few days, their collaboration became a natural extension of their individual routines. They met for coffee in the observatory's small break room, their discussions often spilling over into shared lunches. Elara found herself anticipating these moments, the way Reese would lean forward, elbows on the table, his eyes earnest as he explained a concept, or the soft crinkle at the corners of his eyes when she made a joke. One afternoon they ventured out into Havenwood itself, a clipboard in Reese's hand, a small, dark sky-compliant flashlight in Elara's. They walked through the quieter residential streets, observing the myriad ways light spilled into the night. Reese meticulously noted down lumens and angles, while Elara chatted with residents, gently explaining their initiative. She had a remarkable ability to connect with people, her genuine warmth and conviction instantly putting them at ease. Reese watched her, a quiet admiration growing within him. He was used to presenting data to scientific committees, but Elara spoke to the heart, and the residents of Havenwood responded. Mrs. Gable, kindly woman with a prize-winning rose garden, initially expressed concern that dimmer lights would make her feel unsafe. Elara listened patiently, then explained how shielded, downward-facing lights could actually improve visibility by reducing glare, making it easier to see what was truly there. She even offered to help Mrs. Gable choose a suitable fixture. By the time they left, Mrs. Gable was not only convinced but eager to spread the word among her neighbors. "You have a real gift for this, Elara," Reese remarked as they walked away, the twilight deepening around them. "You make it personal." Elara smiled, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Personal, Reese. This town, these stars, they're part of who we are." He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I'm starting to see that. My world has always been about the vast, impersonal scale of the universe. You remind me of the beauty in the immediate, the tangible." Their evening ended with them back at the observatory, reviewing their notes. The moon, a sliver of silver, hung low in the sky, casting long, soft shadows. As Reese packed up his things, he paused, looking out at the sprawling silhouette of Havenwood below. "We have a good foundation, Elara, but this will be a marathon, not a sprint." "I know," she replied, her gaze fixed on a distant star, a tiny beacon in the velvet expanse. "But we're running it together." The unspoken understanding between them stretched, shimmering like starlight, a promise of endurance and shared purpose. The community meeting a few nights later was a success, drawing a larger crowd than Elara had anticipated. Rhys presented a compelling slideshow, his deep voice calm and authoritative, as he explained the science behind light pollution and its far-reaching consequences. Elara followed, her voice imbued with a quiet passion, painting a vivid picture of Havenwood's unique celestial heritage. They fielded questions with ease, their combined expertise a formidable force. However, their initial successes were soon overshadowed by a new, more significant challenge. A week later, a notice appeared on the town hall bulletin board announcing a proposal for a new luxury resort development on the outskirts of Havenwood, just a few miles from the observatory. The plans, vaguely outlined, included extensive outdoor lighting, grand illuminated pathways, and even a lighted golf course. The potential impact on Havenwood's dark skies was catastrophic. Elara felt a cold dread creep into her heart as she read the notice. This can't happen, she whispered, clutching the paper. She immediately sought out Rhys, finding him in his office, already poring over a digital copy of the developer's preliminary plans. His brow was furrowed, his jaw tight. "It's worse than I thought," he said without looking up, his voice clipped. "The proposed lighting plans are completely disregardful of dark sky principles. They're using high-wattage, unshielded fixtures. It would create a light dome visible for miles, effectively wiping out our pristine skies." "We have to fight this, Rhys," Elara declared, her voice firm, a new resolve hardening her gentle features. "Havenwood can't lose its stars. This observatory, everything we've built, it would all be for nothing." He finally looked up, his eyes meeting hers, a shared determination igniting between them. "You're right, we will, but we need to be strategic. Emotional appeals alone won't stop a multi-million-dollar development. We need hard data, alternatives, and community mobilization." Their shared purpose had suddenly escalated into a full-blown campaign. Days bled into nights as they immersed themselves in research. Rhys delved into environmental impact reports, municipal zoning laws, and case studies of other communities that had successfully fought similar developments. He calculated the projected light trespass, the economic value of astrotourism to Havenwood, and the potential energy waste of the proposed lighting scheme. Elara, meanwhile, became a whirlwind of community organizing. She drafted petitions, rallied local businesses, and met with residents, explaining the threat in clear, understandable terms. She organized a series of starry night walks, taking groups out to experience the beauty of their dark skies, subtly illustrating what they stood to lose. She even reached out to astronomers and dark sky advocates from other regions, seeking advice and support. They worked together in a way that felt increasingly seamless. Rhys would unearth a crucial piece of data, and Elara would instinctively know how to translate it into a compelling argument for the community. She'd bring him a new petition with hundreds of signatures, and he'd use it to bolster his legal research. The stress of the situation was immense, but it also forged an unbreakable bond between them. Late one evening, they were the only two left in the observatory, surrounded by stacks of documents and glowing computer screens. Rhys rubbed a weary hand over his face. "The developer's lawyers are good. They're pushing hard for a quick approval, citing job creation and economic growth." Elara sighed, leaning back in her chair, her gaze drifting to the large telescope dome, silhouetted against the indigo sky. "People want jobs, Rhys. They want progress. We have to show them that progress doesn't have to come at the expense of what makes Havenwood special." He turned to her, his expression softening. "You never give up, do you?" "Not when it matters," she replied, her voice quiet but resolute. "And this matters more than anything." He found himself simply looking at her for a moment, the soft light from his monitor illuminating the gentle curve of her cheek, the earnestness in her eyes. He admired her tenacity, her unwavering belief in the good of people and the inherent value of beauty. He, the scientist who had always sought objective truth, was learning from her that some truths were felt in the heart, not just measured by instruments. "We have a public hearing next week," Rhys finally said, breaking the comfortable silence. "It's our best shot to present our case directly to the town council and the planning board. We need to be prepared for anything." "We will be," Elara assured him, pushing herself to her feet. She walked over to the window, gazing out at the familiar panorama of Havenwood, nestled beneath its canopy of stars. We have the community behind us, we have the science, and we have each other. Reese joined her at the window, standing shoulder to shoulder. The night sky above Havenwood was a breathtaking tapestry of shimmering light, a stark contrast to the encroaching threat. He felt a profound sense of protectiveness, not just for the stars, but for the quiet, passionate woman beside him. He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers, a fleeting, almost accidental touch that sent a jolt of warmth through them both. Elara didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into the contact, her hand subtly closing around his. His touch was firm, reassuring, a silent promise of support in the challenging days ahead. The battle for Havenwood's dark skies was far from over, but standing there, under the vast, silent gaze of the universe, Elara knew that whatever came, they would face it together. The plan, written in stardust and whispered on the wind, was steadily unfolding, guiding their hands and drawing their hearts ever closer. The plan, written in stardust and whispered on the wind, was steadily unfolding, guiding their hands and drawing their hearts ever closer. Elara's fingers tightened around Liam's, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken connection that had just sparked between them. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, but a warmth spread through her from their joined hands, radiating outwards. She felt Liam's thumb brush lightly over her knuckles, a feather-light touch that sent a shiver down her spine. Not of cold, but of a quiet thrill. He didn't pull away, nor did she. For a long moment they simply stood there, side by side, gazing up at the Milky Way stretching across the velvet canvas above. The universe felt vast and personal all at once, a silent witness to their shared ambition and burgeoning affection. Finally, Liam stirred, a soft sigh escaping him. "It's late," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that resonated deep within Elara. "And we have a lot of work ahead of us if we want to give Havenwood the gift of this view every night." Elara squeezed his hand gently. "I know," she replied, her voice a little breathy. "But I think we can do it." She turned her head to look at him, catching the faint glint in his eyes in the dim light. A small, hopeful smile played on her lips. Liam returned her gaze, his expression unreadable, yet intensely warm. "I think so too, Elara, especially with you leading the charge." He slowly released her hand, the warmth lingering long after his touch was gone. The separation felt like a gentle tug on her heartstrings, but also a promise of future contact. As they began their descent from the observatory, their footsteps crunching softly on the gravel path, a comfortable silence settled between them. It was a silence filled with shared understanding, with the echo of their joined hands, and with the quiet hum of possibility. They spoke in hushed tones about the next steps, drafting a proposal for a town-wide light ordinance, researching dark sky-certified lighting, and most importantly, igniting the passion for the night sky within the community. "We need an event," Elara mused, stopping briefly to look out over the sleeping town, a scattering of warm, inviting lights in the distance. "Something to bring everyone together, to show them what they're missing and what we could gain." Liam nodded, hands tucked into his pockets. "A dark sky festival, perhaps? A night of stargazing, local food, maybe some live music under the stars." Elara's eyes lit up. "That's perfect! Imagine hundreds of people gathered looking up, truly seeing the stars for the first time in their lives. We could have telescopes, talks, maybe even local artists creating star-themed art." Her enthusiasm was infectious, painting a vivid picture in the cool night air. "It's ambitious," Liam said, a thoughtful smile playing on his lips. "But entirely achievable. We'll need a committee, volunteers, and a lot of planning. And of course, the blessing of the town council." "One step at a time," Elara said, a renewed sense of purpose invigorating her. "First, we need to outline the vision, get the details down, and then we present it." They walked the rest of the way in a companionable quiet, the idea of the festival blossoming between them like a celestial flower. When they reached Elara's cabin, a gentle glow emanating from her windows, Liam paused at her doorstep. "Thank you, Elara," he said, his voice soft. "For tonight, for showing me Havenwood's true beauty." "Thank you, Liam," she replied, her gaze meeting his. "For seeing it with me, and for believing in it." He lingered for a moment longer, his eyes searching hers, a question, a hope, unasked but clearly there. Elara felt her heart quicken, a magnetic pull drawing her towards him. Just as she thought he might lean in, he offered a small, reassuring smile. "Good night, Elara. Dream of starlight." "You too, Liam," she whispered, watching him turn and walk away, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows. She stepped inside, the cabin feeling both emptier and fuller than before, filled with the lingering echoes of his presence and the exciting promise of their shared future. Over the next few weeks, the Dark Sky Festival became their shared project, a celestial blueprint that drew them together with an undeniable gravitational force. Their days were a flurry of activity, punctuated by steaming mugs of coffee and late-night calls. They met in the dusty quiet of the town archives, sifting through old zoning maps, and in the bustling warmth of the local diner, brainstorming logistics over plates of blueberry pancakes. Elara found herself increasingly fascinated by Liam. He was meticulous, organized, with a quiet strength that underpinned his every action. He had a knack for problem-solving, his calm demeanor a perfect counterpoint to her own bursts of creative energy. He handled the more bureaucratic aspects of their plan with ease, navigating town permits and budgets, while Elara focused on the educational and artistic elements, dreaming up workshops and interactive exhibits. One crisp afternoon, they were huddled over a large map of Havenwood spread across the antique table in Elara's cabin, marking potential locations for the festival. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and highlighting the flecks of gold in Liam's hazel eyes. "The old meadow by Miller's Creek would be ideal," Elara pointed with a pencil, her finger tracing a path on the map. "It's far enough from the main road to minimize light pollution, and it has a gentle slope, perfect for setting up telescopes." Liam leaned closer, his arm brushing hers, sending a familiar spark through her. "Good idea. We'll need to talk to old Mr. Miller, though. He's a bit of a recluse, but if anyone appreciates the stars, it's him. He used to tell me stories about watching meteor showers from that very meadow when he was a boy." Elara looked up, surprised. "You know Mr. Miller?" Liam chuckled softly. "I've been in Havenwood longer than you think, Elara. My family has roots here, though I only moved back permanently a few years ago. My grandmother lived here her whole life. That's partly why I'm so invested in this. Havenwood was always a place where you could see the stars. It's part of its soul." A wave of understanding washed over Elara. His dedication wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. "That explains so much," she said, a soft smile gracing her lips. "I always wondered what brought a city planner like you to a quiet place like Havenwood." He met her gaze, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. "The stars mostly, and a desire for something more real. The city lights were beautiful in their own way, but they obscured so much. Here, I feel like I can breathe and see. And now I have a chance to help others see it too." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, "And I suppose I've also found a certain kindred spirit here." His eyes held hers for a beat longer than strictly necessary, and Elara felt her cheeks warm. They fell into a comfortable rhythm of working together, their individual strengths weaving into a powerful tapestry of shared purpose. Evenings often found them lingering in Elara's cozy living room, surrounded by star charts and festival blueprints, the scent of her freshly brewed herbal tea filling the air. Sometimes Liam would bring over a bottle of local cider or a freshly baked pie from Mrs. Gable's bakery, turning their work sessions into impromptu, intimate dinners. One such evening, after a particularly productive brainstorming session, they found themselves on Elara's porch swing, listening to the crickets chirp and the distant hoot of an owl. The sky was clear, the stars already beginning to emerge, faint pinpricks against the deepening blue. "I'm starting to get nervous about presenting this to the town council next week," Elara admitted, her voice soft. "What if they don't see the vision? What if they just see the cost, the inconvenience?" Liam reached out, his hand gently covering hers where it rested on the swing's armrest. His touch was warm, reassuring. "They will, Elara, because you're going to paint such a vivid picture for them. They won't be able to help but see it, and I'll be right there handling the practicalities." He squeezed her hand lightly. "We're a good team." Elara looked at their joined hands, then up at Liam, a rush of warmth spreading through her chest. "We are," she agreed, her voice barely a whisper. She felt a profound sense of peace and belonging whenever she was with him. It was a feeling she hadn't realized she was missing until now. His thumb began to stroke the back of her hand, a slow, gentle rhythm that made her heart flutter. The air between them crackled with an unspoken tension, a delicate dance of unspoken desires. Elara leaned her head back against the porch post, her eyes closing for a moment, savoring the quiet intimacy. When she opened them, Liam was watching her, his gaze intense, tender. "You have a way of making people believe, Elara," he said, his voice husky. "A passion that's truly inspiring." A blush crept up her neck. "And you have a way of making things happen, Liam, of grounding the dreams." He smiled, a slow, captivating smile that reached his eyes. "Perhaps we were meant to cross paths then, to bring Havenwood its stars back." The suggestion hung in the air, weighted with more than just their shared project. It spoke of destiny, of a connection that felt deeper than mere professional collaboration. Elara felt a longing stir within her, a desire to lean into that magnetic pull, to bridge the small distance between them. But the moment, as delicate as starlight, passed. Liam gently released her hand, though his fingers brushed hers for a lingering second. "We should get some sleep," he said, rising from the swing, his voice a little rougher than before. "Big day tomorrow. I'm going to visit Mr. Miller about the meadow." Elara nodded, a bittersweet ache in her chest. "Good luck with him. He's a tough nut to crack." "I'll tell him about the stars," Liam said, his eyes twinkling. "That usually works." The next day brought a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Liam spent the morning at Mr. Miller's farm, and Elara spent it finalizing their presentation for the town council. She meticulously crafted slides, pulled together compelling statistics on the benefits of dark sky preservation, and selected breathtaking images of the cosmos. When Liam returned, his face was alight with triumph. Mr. Miller agreed. He was hesitant at first, grumbling about all those city folk trampling his land. "But once I started talking about the meteor showers he used to watch as a boy, and how we could bring that back for the children of Havenwood, he actually teared up a little. He said his only condition was that we name a small corner of the meadow after his late wife, who loved the stars almost as much as he did." Elara clapped her hands together, a joyous laugh bubbling up. "Liam, that's wonderful. That's more than wonderful. This is a huge step forward." She felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude for him, for his quiet persistence, for his connection to the town's history. Their success with Mr. Miller gave them a renewed sense of confidence as they prepared for the town council meeting. The council chamber, usually a staid and somewhat stuffy room, felt charged with energy as Elara and Liam took their places before the elected officials. Liam presented the economic benefits, the ecological impact, and the practical implementation of their plan, his delivery calm and authoritative. Elara then took the floor, her voice imbued with her profound passion for the night sky. She spoke not just of light pollution, but of lost wonder, of children who had never seen the Milky Way, of the ancient human connection to the cosmos, of the unique heritage of Havenwood itself. She painted a picture of the Dark Sky Festival, a beacon of community, education, and shared experience. The council members listened intently, some with skepticism, others with growing interest. Councilman Henderson, a gruff, no-nonsense man who owned the local hardware store, raised the first objection. "All this sounds lovely, Ms. Vance, Mr. Maxwell, but dimming streetlights, asking businesses to change their signage, that's an expense, an inconvenience, and frankly, some folks might feel it makes the town less safe." Liam stepped forward, addressing the safety concerns with facts and figures about shielded lighting and responsible light usage. Elara, meanwhile, smiled warmly at Councilman Henderson. "Mr. Henderson, imagine your hardware store illuminated not by harsh, upward-shining lights that spill into the sky, but by warm, downward-focused fixtures that highlight your storefront beautifully, while preserving the view above. We're not asking for darkness, but for intelligent light. And think of the tourism potential. People travel great distances for dark sky experiences. Havenwood could become a destination." Her words seemed to resonate. Other council members chimed in with questions, some supportive, some still cautious. The meeting stretched on, a delicate balance of persuasion and negotiation. Elara and Liam worked seamlessly together, anticipating each other's answers, supporting each other's points. It was a dance they had practiced without realizing it, a testament to their growing bond. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mayor Thompson, a kind-faced woman with a twinkle in her eye, raised her gavel. "This is a bold and ambitious proposal, Ms. Vance, Mr. Maxwell, and one that clearly has a great deal of thought and heart behind it." She paused, looking around the room. "We will need time to deliberate, to consider the full implications, but I must say, the vision you've presented is compelling. The idea of a dark sky festival, it certainly has a charm. We will form a committee to further investigate the feasibility and local impact. We will be in touch." It wasn't a full endorsement, but it was far from a rejection. It was a step forward, a glimmer of hope in the ongoing battle. Elara and Liam exchanged a look of shared relief and quiet triumph. They had cleared the first hurdle. Walking out of the council chambers, the evening air felt crisp and invigorating. Elara let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Well, that wasn't a no," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. Liam reached out, his hand gently finding the small of her back as they navigated the crowded hallway. "And that, Elara, is a resounding victory for now. We made them listen. We made them think." His touch was light, but firm, a comforting presence that sent a familiar warmth through her. They decided to celebrate their minor victory with a quiet dinner at the town's coziest pub, the Starry Plough. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, the scent of wood smoke and hearty food filling the air. They settled into a corner booth, ordering local brews and comfort food. As they talked, the conversation naturally drifted from the council meeting to more personal topics. Liam spoke of his early career in a bustling city, the constant demands, the feeling of being a cog in a giant, impersonal machine. "I woke up one day and realized I was spending all my time trying to build bigger, brighter things, but I couldn't even see the stars from my own apartment window. It felt hollow." Elara listened, truly listened, her heart aching with understanding. "I know that feeling," she confessed. "The pursuit of knowledge, the wonder of the cosmos, it's always been my anchor." He reached across the table, taking her hand in his thumb gently caressing her skin. "And you're doing just that, Elara. You're inspiring everyone around you." His eyes, warm and sincere, held hers. "I'm glad our paths converged here. I truly am." Elara's breath caught in her throat. His touch, his gaze, the sincerity in his voice, it was all a powerful current, pulling her deeper into a connection she hadn't anticipated, but now cherished. She felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for his partnership in the project, but for his presence in her life. The pub's gentle hum faded into the background as their eyes remained locked. The unspoken words hung in the air between them, shimmering like distant starlight. It was a moment suspended in time, fragile and perfect. Suddenly, a boisterous laugh from a nearby table broke the spell. Liam gently squeezed her hand, then released it, though his gaze remained soft and lingering. "We should probably get home," he said, his voice a little gruff, a hint of unspoken emotion coloring his tone. Elara nodded, her heart still thrumming. The evening had been a success in more ways than one. They had navigated the complexities of the town council, and in doing so, had only deepened the intricate, beautiful connection forming between them. The path ahead for Havenwood's dark skies was still long, filled with challenges and triumphs yet to come. But as they walked out into the cool, star-dusted night, Elara knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that with Liam by her side, anything was possible. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, guiding their way forward, together. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, guiding their way forward, together. They walked in comfortable silence, the crisp autumn air carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. The council meeting had been a victory, a hard-won battle of words and logic. Liam's hand brushed hers as they navigated a small dip in the sidewalk, and a shiver, not from cold, traced its way up her arm. "That was something," Liam finally said, his voice a low rumble that resonated in the stillness. Elara chuckled softly. "Something indeed. I think Councilman Davies finally saw the light, literally, in terms of reducing it." Liam grinned, a flash of white in the dimness. "Or he just got tired of listening to us. Either way, progress. And we did it, Elara. He stopped then, turning to face her, his hands gently finding her shoulders. His gaze, even shadowed, was warm and intense. You did it. Your research, your passion, it swayed them. We did it, she corrected, her voice soft. Your calm reasoning, your knowledge of the town, your unwavering belief. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere without you, Liam. His thumbs stroked the fabric of her coat, a small comforting gesture that made her heart flutter. The moment stretched, thick with unspoken feelings, until the distant hoot of an owl broke the spell. He cleared his throat, a faint blush dusting his cheekbones. Right. Well, now the real work begins, doesn't it? It does, Elara agreed, her gaze lingering on his. But at least we have a mandate. They continued their walk, the conversation turning to the practicalities. The first step was to form a dedicated dark sky committee, then apply for grants, engage the community, and start the slow, deliberate process of converting streetlights and educating residents. Liam offered to help draft the grant proposals, his meticulous nature perfectly suited to the task, while Elara planned community workshops and starlight tours. Over the next few weeks, their lives became even more intertwined. Their morning started with shared coffee at the Gilded Mug, poring over blueprints and budget spreadsheets. Their afternoons were spent meeting with contractors, town planners, and even skeptical homeowners who worried about safety or the aesthetics of new downward-facing light fixtures. Their evenings often ended late, huddled over Elara's laptop in her cozy living room, the glow of the screen illuminating their tired but determined faces. One particularly late night, after a frustrating phone call with a funding agency, Elara slumped back on her sofa, rubbing her temples. Sometimes it feels like we're trying to move a mountain with a spoon. Liam, who had been quietly organizing a stack of paperwork, sat beside her. He gently took her hand, his thumb tracing soothing circles on her skin. We're not moving it with a spoon, Elara. We're moving it with 1,000 spoons, and each one is a person in this town who believes in what we're doing. We're building something beautiful, remember? She looked at him, truly looked, and saw not just a colleague, but a steadfast anchor. His quiet strength, his unwavering optimism, was a balm to her often overthinking mind. In the soft lamplight, his eyes held a tenderness that stole her breath. He leaned closer, and Elara's heart pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She met him halfway, her lips parting slightly. His kiss was soft, tentative at first, a question more than a demand. It tasted of coffee and the faint scent of his aftershave, and felt like coming home. As her hand instinctively curled around the back of his neck, deepening the kiss, a warmth spread through her, chasing away the weariness, and filling her with a profound sense of rightness. It was a kiss that promised not just romance, but partnership, shared dreams, and a future as vast and inviting as the night sky they championed. From that moment, their relationship blossomed, a quiet, tender bloom amidst the bustle of their project. Dates weren't grand affairs but stolen moments. A hike through the forest, holding hands and pointing out constellations. A home-cooked meal at Elara's, where Liam's surprisingly good lasagna became a regular feature. Or simply sitting on her porch swing, watching the stars emerge, their shoulders touching. They faced their first major hurdle when a proposed grant application for the initial phase of streetlight retrofitting was rejected. Disappointment hung heavy in the air. Elara felt the familiar sting of self-doubt creeping in, whispering that her dream was too big, too impractical. It's okay, Liam said, finding her slumped over her desk the next morning. It's a setback, not a defeat. We learn, we adapt. What did they say was the reason? Lack of community engagement metrics, Elara mumbled, pushing a stray curl from her face. They want to see more grassroots support, not just council endorsement. Then we give them grassroots support, Liam declared, his eyes sparking with renewed determination. We need to show them Heavenwood wants a town-wide petition, a Starlight Festival to raise awareness and funds, anything to prove we're serious. And so the Havenwood Starlight Festival was born. Elara, with her natural enthusiasm, spearheaded the creative aspects, planning educational booths, telescope viewing stations, and local artisans selling star-themed crafts. Liam, ever the pragmatist, handled logistics, securing permits, coordinating volunteers, and even convincing his older brother, a local musician, to perform. The festival was a resounding success. Families flocked to the town square, marveling at the giant inflatable planets, listening to talks about nocturnal wildlife, and lining up for their turn at the powerful telescopes Elara had borrowed from a nearby university. Children, their faces painted with glittery stars, ran around with glow sticks, their laughter echoing under the increasingly dark sky. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, the first stars began to pierce through. Elara and Liam stood side by side, watching the crowd, a shared sense of accomplishment warming them. "Look at them," Elara whispered, a lump forming in her throat. "They get it, Liam. They really get it." He squeezed her hand. "They always did, Elara. They just needed someone to show them what they were missing." Later that evening, after the last vendor had packed up and the final stragglers had drifted home, they found themselves on the hill overlooking Havenwood, their favorite stargazing spot. The town below was noticeably dimmer, the festival lights having been packed away, and the sky above was a breathtaking tapestry of stars. Liam had brought a thermos of hot cocoa and a warm blanket. They snuggled together, sharing the blanket, their breath misting in the cool air. The silence was profound, punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets. "Do you remember?" Elara began, her voice soft. "When I first came here, I felt so disconnected, like I was just passing through. Havenwood was a place to study, not a place to belong." Liam traced the line of her jaw with his finger. "And now?" "No." She turned her head, her eyes meeting his. "Now it feels like home, and not just because of the stars, because of you, because of everything we're building here." He smiled, a tender, heart-melting smile that reached his eyes. "It feels like home to me too, Elara, more than it ever has before." He paused, then took a deep breath. "Elara, there's something I want to tell you." A nervous flutter started in Elara's stomach. She waited, her heart in her throat, watching the stars shimmer in his eyes. I love you, Elara," he said, his voice a little rough with emotion. "I love your passion, your intelligence, your stubborn determination. I love the way you see the world, and the way you've made me see Havenwood in a whole new light. I can't imagine my life, or this town's future, without you in it." Tears welled in Elara's eyes, hot and sudden. She reached up, cupping his face in her hands. "Oh, Liam, I love you too. More than I ever thought possible. You've shown me what it means to truly connect, to belong, to build something lasting." He leaned in, and their kiss under the vast, star-dusted canopy was a promise. A vow whispered not just between them, but to the very universe itself. The success of the Starlight Festival, along with the detailed report Elara and Liam compiled, swayed the grant committee. Funds were approved, and the project moved into its implementation phase. The first streetlights were retrofitted, their harsh, upward-shining glare replaced by warm, downward-focused glow. Residents were amazed at the difference, gasping as the Milky Way became visible from their own backyards. Word of Havenwood's Dark Sky initiative spread. Other towns contacted Elara for advice, and scientists expressed interest in using Havenwood as a research site. Tourism began to pick up, not just for the quaint shops and charming atmosphere, but for the unparalleled stargazing opportunities. Bed and breakfast saw a boom. Local restaurants filled up, and a new astrotourism industry began to flourish. Elara and Liam, now a recognized power couple in Havenwood, continued to work tirelessly. They established a dark sky ordinance, ensuring future development adhered to light pollution guidelines. They collaborated with local schools to integrate astronomy into the curriculum. Their shared office in the Old Town Hall became a hub of activity, filled with maps, diagrams, and the comfortable hum of their shared life. Amidst all the planning and progress, their love deepened. They learned each other's rhythms, celebrated small victories, and comforted each other through minor frustrations. Elara found solace in Liam's steady presence, a grounding force that allowed her own vibrant spirit to soar. Liam, in turn, thrived on Elara's infectious energy, her curiosity igniting new passions within him. They were two halves of a perfect whole, their strengths complementing each other in every way. One spring evening, almost 2 years after Elara first arrived in Havenwood, the final preparations were complete. The town had met all the stringent requirements, from light fixture retrofits to community education and environmental impact assessments. The official designation ceremony for the Havenwood Dark Sky Park was set for the coming weekend. The night before the ceremony, Liam took Elara on a walk. He led her away from the town, past the familiar hill, and deeper into the forest to a clearing she had never seen before. It was a hidden gem, a circular patch of soft grass bordered by ancient pines, perfectly open to the sky. He had set up a small picnic blanket, complete with a bottle of sparkling cider and a box of Elara's favorite lavender shortbread cookies. As they sat together, the silence of the forest enveloped them, broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of a stream. "It's beautiful here, Liam," Elara whispered, leaning her head on his shoulder. "How did you find it?" "My grandfather showed me when I was a boy," he replied, his voice soft. "He called it the heart of Havenwood. Said the stars shone brightest here." As if on cue, the first stars began to emerge, piercing the twilight sky with their ethereal glow. The Milky Way, a shimmering river of light, stretched across the heavens, more vivid than Elara had ever seen it. Liam turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Elara," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "you came to Havenwood to save its skies, but you ended up saving so much more. You've brought light to this town in more ways than one, and you've brought so much light into my life." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. Elara's breath hitched. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a joyous, almost painful throb. He opened the box to reveal a ring. It wasn't a flashy diamond, but a delicate silver band, intricately carved with tiny stars and a single, luminous moonstone at its center. It perfectly captured the essence of their journey, their love, and their shared purpose. Liam got down on one knee, his gaze unwavering. "Elara Vance, will you make Havenwood your forever home? Will you marry me and build a lifetime of starlit moments by my side?" Tears streamed down Elara's face, but her smile was radiant, brilliant as a supernova. "Yes, Liam, 1,000 times yes." She threw her arms around him, pulling him up into a fierce embrace. Their kiss was full of promises, of shared dreams under endless skies, of a love as boundless and profound as the universe itself. The designation ceremony was a joyous affair. Dignitaries, community members, and even reporters from national publications gathered in the newly designated Havenwood Dark Sky Park Tortoy. Elara, standing beside Liam, her hand intertwined with his, looked out at the familiar faces, now illuminated by the gentle glow of the new dark sky-friendly lighting. The town, once a sleepy, overlooked spot, now buzzed with a quiet vibrancy. The local observatory, once a forgotten relic, was now a thriving educational center. Businesses had adapted, offering starlight suppers and cosmic cocktails. Havenwood had not only preserved its natural heritage but had embraced it, turning its darkness into its greatest asset. As the sun began to set, painting the western sky in fiery oranges and soft purples, the official proclamation was read, declaring Havenwood a certified international dark sky park. A wave of applause and cheers erupted, echoing through the peaceful forest. Elara and Liam stood together, accepting the accolades, but their eyes were only for each other. They had done it. They had turned a dream into a reality, not just for Havenwood, but for themselves. Later that evening, long after the crowds had dispersed, Elara and Liam found themselves back at their hidden clearing. The moonstone on Elara's finger seemed to glow, mirroring the celestial beauty above. They lay on their blanket, gazing up at the infinite expanse, hand in hand. "It's perfect," Elara whispered, a profound sense of peace settling over her. "More perfect than I ever imagined." Liam squeezed her hand. "It's just the beginning, my love. A lifetime of stars, a lifetime of us." The stars, countless and brilliant, twinkled down on them, silent witnesses to their love story. In the heart of Havenwood, under a sky reclaimed from the glare of artificial light, Elara had found not just her purpose, but her home, her partner, and a love as enduring and luminous as the oldest, most distant star. As they drifted into sleep in the quiet comfort of each other's arms, the universe seemed to hum with a gentle lullaby, promising bright tomorrows and endless, starlit nights.